Good afternoon, West Point classmates of 77. It's July 27th, 2022, and it's my honor to be with you with the Center for Oral History, West Point, here at the Marine Corps Memorial, Arlington National Cemetery. Truly a memorial for all servicemen and women through the ages of American history. I first laid eyes on this spot July 4th weekend, 1961, when my dad woke up and said, "Let's fly to Washington and visit my brother." We'd never been on an airplane. We headed for LaGuardia, saw that huge Lockheed Constellation on the tarmac, 3 tails, 4 turboprops, and when they coughed to life, it was a thrill of my life. We overflew the monuments. My uncle met us. We went to the showroom where he was a band leader, watched music under the stars, and then drove the monuments in Washington, D.C. In itself, that was a thrill. And then, around 11 o'clock at night, we got to this spot. Only dedicated 5 years prior, after the Battle of Iwo Jima, February to March 1945, President Kennedy had recently decreed that the flag would fly there and be illuminated 24 hours a day. My dad just paused and said nothing. He never spoke of the battle, but it already occupied mythical proportions in my own little boy imagination. I'd heard about it from relatives, from my older brother, and I began to study and read everything I could about military strategy, small unit tactics, what went right, what went wrong. At this spot right here, we commemorate 7,000 from all services who died on that island, 21,000 wounded, February to March 1945, with tactics brilliant, 27 medals of honor, and strategy run amok. The island, considered an essential stepping stone to Japan, was not altogether necessary. Fighters deemed essential for B-29 escort were not used. B-29s made few emergency landings on the island, and the rest is, as they say, history. My dad never spoke of the battle until his late 80s, and he spoke of it only in deferential and metaphorical terms, but he was a platoon leader, first wave ashore, 4th Marine Division, February 19th, 1945. Fast forward, and 40 years later, that lesson never left me. What happens when strategies are ill thought out? Marines were never involved in strategy making for Iwo Jima. Strategy in the European theater ran amok several times at the Fillet Gap, the Battle of Arnhem, which we know is bridge too far. Eisenhower's broad front strategy, in deference to the Allies, might well have prolonged the war, enabled the Battle of Bulge when the German army escaped at Fillet. Another 100,000 casualties followed in 1945 in Europe. And the object lesson for me is what happens when strategy is not carefully thought out. Objectives, concepts, resources, what it takes to go to war, fight, win, and secure the peace. And that brings us to the class of 1977 50th gift. The class of 1977 Ambassador Michael A. Sheehan Distinguished Chair in Strategy, named for a venerated classmate, Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Ops Low Intensity Conflict, UN Ambassador, Assistant Secretary of State, cut down, barely 60, with his star very much still on the rise. That gift is named for him because he too was one of the preeminent strategists of our time. The purpose of this gift is to educate on strategy at all levels of the strategy making chain, from cadets to senior policymakers across the services, ultimately benefiting those not even yet born into military service. This gift will live on into perpetuity as a result of the class of 77 generosity, in honor of our classmate, in honor of the class of 77, leaving an indelible mark on West Point as well as a crown jewel of America's national defense. Thanks very much for listening. Look forward to seeing everybody soon. Go Army. Thanks, everyone.